والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
الله نزل أحسن الحديث كتابا متشابها مثانية تقشعر منه جلود الذين يخشون ربهم ثم تلين جلودهم وقلوبهم إلى ذكر الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of our fascinating series, The Sciences of the Qur'an. This is your host, Yasir Qadhi. In our previous episode, we had discussed the beginning of the compilation of the Qur'an that was done during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and then the second stage that was done during the Caliphate of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. In today's episode, we will continue from where we left off. Now, as we had said, the first Caliph of Islam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was the person who first compiled the Mus'haf, i.e. from Fatiha to Nas, in one book. Before his time, it was scattered in different manuscripts, in different writing materials. The situation remained the same for around another 15 years or so, until in the Caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan, radiyallahu ta'ala anh, another incident happened, which caused Uthman to rethink of another strategy. What was the incident that occurred? Well, the Muslim armies were fighting on the border posts of the Muslim lands in an area that is, to this day is called Azerbaijan, and then too it was called Azerbaijan. And what happened was that the Muslims of Mecca and Medina had met with the Muslims of Syria, Damascus, other places. They had all met together on the front lines. And lo and behold, they were reciting the Qur'an differently. And the reasons for this will become clear in another future episode. But they were reciting the Qur'an, each one from a companion, and they had slight differences in their recitation. And these Muslims did not realize where these differences came from. Later on we will learn that these differences came from the Prophet ﷺ himself. But these Muslims were unschooled in the recitations of the Qur'an, and they began fighting one another almost to a physical fight. They began saying that my recitation is better, your recitation is wrong, I know how to recite, you are ignorant, even though all of these companions were reciting, all of these, people were reciting from the companions' recitations. Now the companions themselves did not fight, they knew where these differences came from. But their students, those who took the Qur'an from them, they were the ones who didn't know where these differences came from. And so they said, my version of the Qur'an is better. And the other said, no, my version of the Qur'an is better. And so a companion who was present there by the name of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, he said, O Muslims, what are you doing? Are you going to fight like the Jews and Christians fought over their books, that they have different versions and different scriptures? O Muslims, this is the one Qur'an of the Prophet ﷺ, and these differences are not to the level of different versions, they're different recitations. And so the Muslims understood what was going on, and so they stopped fighting amongst themselves. But Hudayfa thought that unless I do something, unless we prevent this from becoming even worse, then the ummah will start fighting and bickering, and each one will then try to form a different version of the Qur'an. So he rushed home back to Medina, and he entered in upon the Caliph Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala, and he said, O Khalifatul Amir, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, O leader of the faithful, you must do something to prevent future generations from fighting over the book of Allah. One group says my version, the other group says my version. You must standardize the Qur'an such that everybody writes the same spelling, the same script, the same pronunciation. Everything should be the same. So Uthman ibn Affan called a gathering of all of the companions, and Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman spoke to them and explained to them that unless we do something and standardize all of the copies of the Qur'an into one standard copy, then we are going to face difficulties down the line. So all of the companions agreed to this, and so Uthman ibn Affan recalled the Mus'haf that was written by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and he ordered a committee to be formed, and this committee was composed once again of the very same person who was in charge of the first one, that is Zayd ibn Thabit, and then as well 3 or 4 other members were added who were very knowledgeable of the Arabic language and of the dialect of the Quraysh. And this time Uthman said, make 5 copies, not just one, and write it in the spelling of the Quraysh, because the Qur'an was revealed in the dialect of the Quraysh. So write it in the spelling of the Quraysh and make 5 copies. And so this committee gathered together, and within the period of a few months, they made 5 different copies of the same Mus'haf Abu Bakr. They made 5 copies. And then Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala an sent each copy to one of the famous provinces of the Islamic Empire, the Islamic Caliphate. He sent a copy to Damascus, he sent another copy to Kufa in Iraq. So each of the provinces, they got one of the copies, and along with a copy, he sent one of the famous reciters of the Qur'an as well. So along with a physical copy of the Qur'an, he also sent a famous reciter with it. And then he made a general proclamation, a general announcement all over the Muslim Caliphate. And he said, anybody who has any copy of the Qur'an should dispose of it and come and copy the Qur'an from this original copy. Let nobody just copy an unofficial copy, because you don't know where that copy came from. So he disposed of all of the Qur'ans. Now when you dispose of the Qur'an, we are not supposed to just throw it away in the trash or throw it away in the garbage. No, rather we're supposed to get rid of it in a way that nobody can disrespect it. So of the ways you can dispose of it, you can dip it in water or in the ocean, and the ink would dissolve. This is the old ink we're talking about. And of the ways that you can bury it in a deep, far away place until it decomposes. Because remember, the earliest Qur'ans were written on leather or parchment, which decomposes. And of the ways is that you can burn it, not as a sign of disrespect, but rather as a protection of future disrespect. In other words, you get rid of it in a way that other people will not be able to disrespect it. And this is an important factor, because when we say that the Qur'ans were burnt by the early Muslims, from the